Elena Carter was tired from a long day at work. She pushed open the door to her apartment, expecting quiet, maybe the comfort of her favorite chair and a cup of tea. But instead she froze. Strangers were everywhere. Men in blue uniforms carried boxes and furniture out of her home, down the hall, and into a moving truck parked outside. Her clothes were stuffed into bags, her books piled carelessly, and even the framed photos from her shelves were being hauled away. What is going on here? Elena's voice shook with panic and disbelief. She stepped further inside, her eyes darting around. That was when she saw them. Her parents. Martin stood tall, hands behind his back, watching the movers with a calm, satisfied expression, as though he were managing some important business deal. Diane stood near the kitchen, lips pressed tight, arms crossed, looking around like the apartment had always belonged to her. They didn't look guilty. They didn't look surprised. They looked in control. Mom. Dad. Elena's voice cracked. What are you doing? This is my apartment. Diane's cold eyes turned toward her. Don't be dramatic, Elena. This was never really your home. Elena's chest tightened. What are you talking about? I bought this place. This is mine. You can't just come in here and... Martin cut her off, his tone sharp. Watch your tone. After everything we've done for you, this is how you speak to us. Everything you've done for me? Elena's hands trembled as she pointed toward the door, where movers were struggling to push her sofa into the hallway. You're stealing my life out of this apartment. Martin stepped closer, his face stern. You're ungrateful, Elena. We helped you with your down payment. That means this place is just as much ours as it is yours. Don't forget where you came from. Elena felt her throat go dry. She could barely process his words. This wasn't help. It was control, the same control they had tried to keep over her since childhood. They weren't just moving her furniture. They were trying to erase her independence, to drag her back into their grip. Ungrateful. Elena's voice rose with anger. You don't own me. You don't own this place. You don't get to decide what happens to my life. Diane's lips curled into a smirk. We gave you life. You owe us everything. The words hit her like a punch. For a moment, Elena felt like a little girl again, trapped under their authority, never allowed to breathe on her own. But then she shook her head, her pulse racing. No, not this time. She dug her phone from her pocket, her hand shaking. Her parents' eyes widened, but she didn't care. With her heart pounding, Elena dialed the number. I'm calling the police, she said, her voice steady now, even as her insides burned. And for the first time, Martin and Diane faltered. She grew up in a strict, controlling household where nothing was ever enough. From the time Elena Carter could remember, her parents demanded perfection. Good grades were not celebrated. They were expected. If she brought home an A, her father, Martin, would ask why it wasn't an A+. If she won a school award, her mother, Diane, would smile in front of others but later whisper, "Don't let it get to your head. You're still not doing as well as you should." Love in their home was never free. It was tied to performance, obedience, and appearances. If Elena did exactly what her parents wanted, they praised her. If she made her own choices, they punished her with silence, guilt, or harsh words. Independence was seen as rebellion. Martin believed discipline was the only path to success. He cared about how the family looked to neighbors, friends, and co-workers more than how they actually felt. Rules were rules, and there was no space for Elena to question them. Diane, on the other hand, used emotions as weapons. She would sigh and say, "After everything we've sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us?" Whenever Elena disagreed. Even as a child, Elena felt trapped in a house where she was never truly herself. Her parents decided everything. They picked which schools she would attend, what subjects she should study, even which friends were acceptable. In high school, when Elena showed interest in art, Diane quickly dismissed it as a waste of time and pushed her toward business courses. When Elena dated a kind boy her parents didn't approve of, Martin forced her to break up with him, saying he was beneath her. Every step of her life was monitored, corrected, or redirected. By the time Elena reached her early 20s, she felt like she was suffocating. She was living under their roof but not living her own life. The turning point came one night when she overheard her parents talking about her, as if she were a project, not a person. Martin said, "She'll never survive without us." Diane replied, "That's why we have to keep her close." That was when Elena decided she needed to break free. It wasn't easy. She worked 2 jobs, waiting tables during the day and stocking shelves at night. She saved every dollar she could, even when her parents mocked her efforts, saying, "You think you can do better on your own? Don't be foolish." After years of exhaustion and determination, Elena finally managed to buy a small condo. It wasn't huge or fancy, but it was hers. For the first time, she had a key that belonged only to her. That condo became more than just a home. It was a symbol of freedom, dignity, and the boundary she had drawn against her parents' control. Now at 27, Elena was slowly rebuilding her confidence. Life wasn't perfect. She still carried scars from her upbringing, but she was learning to breathe without her parents' voices filling her head. She had started dating Ryan, a kind and patient man who never raised his voice at her or made her feel small. With him, she felt safe enough to open up, though trust was something she was still learning. But the shadow of her family still loomed. Martin remained rigid, always talking about reputation and respect. He couldn't stand that Elena had moved out without his approval. Diane continued her guilt-tripping, sending texts like, "You're breaking your mother's heart," whenever Elena refused to give in to their demands. And then there was Ethan, Elena's younger brother. Still living at home, he was caught in a painful tug-of-war. He loved Elena but was too afraid to go against their parents. His loyalty kept him silent, even when he admitted in whispers that he felt just as trapped as she once did. The stakes for Elena were high. Her condo was more than walls and furniture. It was her life rebuilt from ashes. It was the proof that she could stand on her own, that she wasn't just a puppet dancing to her parents' strings. To lose it would mean losing not just a home but the very independence she had fought and suffered for. And deep down, Elena knew her parents weren't done trying to take it away. Elena told her parents she would not attend the family fundraiser where she was usually paraded as a trophy daughter. She had said it calmly, hoping they would understand. But the silence on the other end of the call was sharp and cold. Her mother was the first to speak. "You're embarrassing us, Elena. Do you know how this makes us look?" Martin's voice followed, loud and angry. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? You're ungrateful. Selfish." Elena held the phone tighter, her chest tightening. "I just don't want to be put on display anymore. I'm not going." The lashing that came after was cruel. They accused her of betrayal, of disrespecting the family name, of turning her back on the people who had given her everything. Elena ended the call with her hands shaking. She thought the storm might pass. She was wrong. Days later, she came home to chaos. Movers were carrying her furniture, clothes, and boxes into a truck outside her condo. At first, she thought it was a mistake, but then she saw her parents standing there, directing it all like it was their right. Her breath caught in her throat. "What are you doing? Stop. This is my home." Martin turned, calm but cold. "Corrección, Elena. This is our home. You seem to forget who helped you buy this place." "What?" Elena's voice cracked. "You lent me money years ago. I paid you back. This is mine." Diane's lips curled into a cruel smile. "Don't raise your voice at us. If it weren't for us, you wouldn't even be here. This was never really yours." Elena felt the ground tilt beneath her. "You can't just break into my home and steal my things." Martin's eyes narrowed. "Watch how you speak to us. If you push this, we'll take legal action. We'll take back what belongs to us." Her chest burned with rage and disbelief. "Legal action? Are you kidding me? You're trying to erase me from my own life." Diane stepped closer, her tone sharp and cruelly sweet at the same time. "We gave you life, Elena. You owe us everything. Don't forget that." The words cut deep. Elena had heard them before, but this time, standing in her ransacked home, they felt like shackles tightening around her. She looked at the movers, strangers handling her memories like they were nothing, and then back at her parents, so calm, so certain they had the right to take everything. For a moment, panic flooded her. She thought about giving in, about letting them win just to end the fight. But then something inside her snapped. This wasn't about furniture or money. This was about her freedom, the boundary she had fought for. Her hands shook as she pulled her phone from her pocket. "I'm done," she said, her voice trembling but steady enough. "I'm calling the police." Her mother's eyes widened. "Don't you dare." But Elena was already dialing. Her father's face turned red. "Elena, think about what you're doing. You'll regret this. No, Elena said softly, pressing the phone to her ear as her heart raced. The only thing I regret is letting you control me for so long. And with that call, everything shifted. It was no longer just a family argument. It was war.
Police arrive, tension tique.
2 officers step into the apartment, their eyes moving from the movers hauling boxes to Elena's pale face, and then to Martin and Diane standing in the middle of the room like they owned it. The air feels heavy, every second stretching too long. Before Elena can speak, her mother jumps in. Officers, thank God you're here, Diane says, her voice smooth and sharp. Our daughter is having one of her episodes again. She's confused. This place is really ours, but she refuses to accept it. Elena's chest burns. That's not true, she shouts. But Martin cuts in before she can continue. Look around, Martin says calmly, his arms crossed like he's making a business case. All this furniture, this apartment, none of it would exist without us. We lent her money for the down payment. We've tried to reason with her, but she's unstable. We were simply reclaiming what is rightfully ours. Elena's stomach twists. She looks at the officers, desperate for them to see the truth. That's a lie. This condo is mine. I worked for it, I paid for it. They broke in here with movers. They're trying to erase me from my own life. The officers exchange a quick glance, then ask Elena for proof. Her hands shake as she runs to her desk and pulls out a folder with her ownership papers. One officer studies the documents, nods slowly, then clears his throat. Mr. and Mrs. Carter, the officer says firmly. This property legally belongs to your daughter. You cannot remove her belongings or enter without her permission. The movers need to stop immediately. For the first time, Martin and Diane falter. Martin's face reddens while Diane's lips tighten into a thin line. The movers, looking nervous, quickly set down the boxes they were carrying. This isn't over, Martin snaps, his voice low and dangerous. You think you've won, Elena, but you haven't. We'll take this to court if we have to. Diane glares at her, her voice dripping with venom. You're destroying this family. You'll regret this. And with that, they walk out, humiliated but not defeated. When the door closes, Elena feels her knees weaken. She sinks onto the floor, trembling as the officers reassure her they'll file a report. When they leave, the silence in the condo feels too big, too heavy. She stares at the boxes, some half open, her life scattered across the floor. That night, Ryan comes over. He pulls her into his arms, and for a moment, she lets herself cry. They'll never stop, she whispers against his chest. They'll keep coming until they break me. Ryan strokes her hair gently. Then you need to protect yourself. Legally. Emotionally. You've come too far to let them take this away from you. Talk to a lawyer. Set boundaries they can't cross. His words are steady, and they ground her, but the fear doesn't leave. Over the next week, the cracks show. At work, Elena struggles to focus. She forgets deadlines, loses her train of thought in meetings, and spends too much time staring at her phone, waiting for the next attack. The texts come daily. Diane floods her phone with guilt and threats. You're destroying this family. You've turned against your own parents. You will regret this. Sometimes they're angry, other times they're dripping with fake love. We only want what's best for you. But every word feels like a chain tightening around her throat. Elena tries to ignore them, but the weight grows heavier. Guilt mixes with anger. One moment she wants to scream, the next she wants to hide. Sleep becomes restless, her dreams filled with her parents' voices echoing in her ears. One evening, there's a knock at her door. When she opens it, she sees Ethan, her younger brother. His eyes dart nervously down the hallway as if he's afraid of being caught. Elena, can I come in? He whispers. She lets him inside, and he sits stiffly on the couch, wringing his hands. I don't have much time. Mom and Dad think I'm studying at the library. Elena studies his face. He looks tired, older than his years, like the weight of the household is pressing down on him. I saw what happened, Ethan says quietly. They told me you attacked them, but I know that's not true. I know how they are. He hesitates, then admits. I feel like I can't breathe in that house. They control everything I do. I want to leave, but I'm scared. Elena's heart twists. She sees herself in him. Years ago, trapped, suffocating, unsure if freedom was even possible. She takes his hand gently. You don't have to stay there forever, Ethan. You deserve your own life too. He shakes his head, fear clouding his eyes. If I try, they'll cut me off. They'll destroy me the way they're trying to destroy you. His words deepen Elena's resolve. This fight isn't just about her anymore. It's about breaking the cycle that has trapped them both for years. But her parents are not done. Within days, Elena receives a letter claiming Martin and Diane are co-owners of her condo. The document is filled with false statements, twisting the past loan into something it never was. They are trying to use the law as another weapon, hoping to scare her into surrender. Elena's hands tremble as she reads it, but instead of crumbling, something steadies inside her. She knows the truth, and she knows she has proof, but the road ahead will be brutal, facing not only legal battles but the emotional war her parents thrive on. For the first time, though, she is not entirely alone. Ryan stands beside her, reminding her of her strength. Ethan's quiet confession lingers in her heart, proof that their parents' grip is cracking. The war has only just begun. But Elena is ready to fight. Elena testifies, standing up to her parents for the first time publicly. Her hands tremble as she holds the microphone, but her voice is clear. She tells the court how she worked 2 jobs to save money, how she bought her condo, and how her parents broke in with movers to strip her of her independence. She speaks about years of control, about being treated like she never belonged to herself. For the first time, her truth is spoken not in whispers, not in her journal, but out loud for everyone to hear. Her parents sit across the courtroom, their faces hard and unshaken. When it is their turn, Martin rises first. His voice is cold, steady, rehearsed. My daughter is ungrateful, he says. We gave her everything, education, shelter, guidance, and now she slanders us in public. She is reckless and irresponsible. She does not understand the value of family loyalty. Diane follows, her tone dripping with false concern. She's not well, she says, shaking her head as though it pains her. She's always been unstable, dramatic, and confused. We've only tried to help her, but she twists it into abuse. This condo exists because of us. Without us, she would have nothing. Their words stab at Elena, reopening old wounds. For a moment, she feels small again, like the frightened girl who could never speak back. But then she looks at the judge, who is listening carefully, and she forces herself to breathe. She refuses to let their lies silence her anymore. The judge turns to her. Miss Carter, do you have anything further to add? Yes, Elena says, standing taller now. They say I owe them everything. But what they really want is control. I don't owe them my freedom, my dignity, or my life. They've tried to make me believe I can't survive without them. But I have survived. I've built my own home, my own life, and I will not let them take that away. Her words hang in the air. For the first time, her parents shift uncomfortably. Then the doors at the back of the courtroom open. Heads turn. Ethan walks in, his steps hesitant but determined. Elena's heart skips, she hadn't expected him. He takes the stand when called, his hands gripping the edge tightly. I wasn't supposed to be here, he begins softly. But I have to tell the truth. He looks at the judge, then at Elena. My sister isn't lying. Our parents have controlled us our whole lives. They decide everything, what we study, who we see, even how we think. They make us feel like we owe them for breathing. I've watched Elena suffer for years. And I've suffered too. Martin rises angrily. Ethan, sit down. You don't know what you're talking about. But Ethan doesn't stop. His voice grows stronger. I do know. You call it guidance, but it's control. You call it love, but it's fear. Elena isn't unstable. She's the bravest person I know. She left when I was too afraid to. And you can't keep pretending this is about money. It's about power. You want to own us like property. Well, I won't let you lie about her anymore. The courtroom falls silent. Even Diane looks shaken for a moment, her mask cracking. Elena feels tears sting her eyes. For the first time, she isn't standing alone. The judge leans back, thoughtful, then delivers the ruling. The evidence is clear. The property belongs solely to Ms. Elena Carter. The claims of co-ownership are unfounded. Furthermore, due to repeated harassment, the court issues a restraining order against Martin and Diane Carter. They are prohibited from entering or interfering with their daughter's residence or property. Elena exhales, her shoulders trembling with relief. She has won. Not just legally, but emotionally. She turns to her parents, her voice steady, stronger than ever before. You don't own me. Not my condo, not my choices, not my life. You will never control me again. Martin glares, his jaw tight, while Diane's face twists in a mixture of anger and disbelief, but they say nothing. Ethan walks to Elena's side, and for the first time in years, she feels like she has her brother back. Together, they watch as their parents are led out of the courtroom, their power finally broken. In that moment, Elena feels something she hasn't felt in a long time, freedom, solid and real. And she knows deep inside, this time, it's hers to keep. Elena returns to her condo, and for the first time in weeks, the space feels truly hers. No movers, no shouting voices, no fear of someone barging in. Just silence. Just peace. She closes the door gently, presses her back against it, and breathes. This is home, her home, and no one can take it from her. The rooms are messy from the chaos, but Elena doesn't see it as destruction anymore. She sees it as a chance to start fresh. Slowly, she begins to put things back where they belong. She moves her books to the shelves, hangs her clothes in the closet, and replaces the broken frame of her photo with Ryan. She even buys new curtains, brighter and lighter, to let more sunshine in. Every choice she makes in redecorating feels like a statement. This is my life, and I decide how it looks. Ryan helps her on the weekends. Together, they paint one of the walls a soft blue, laughing when they accidentally splash each other with paint. They shop for plants and place them near the windows, filling the condo with fresh green life. Elena realizes how different this feels compared to her parents' world. With Ryan, there is no pressure to be perfect, no fear of disappointing him. He supports her choices, respects her space, and makes her feel safe. For the first time, Elena believes she can build a healthy relationship outside of her parents' shadow. But the change is not just in her home or her love life. It is also in her family. A few weeks after the court ruling, Ethan visits again. This time he doesn't look as scared. He talks more freely, telling Elena about how he's been thinking of applying for jobs in another city, maybe even renting his own place. I don't know if I'm ready yet, he admits. But seeing you stand up to them, it makes me think I can too. Elena smiles and squeezes his hand. You don't have to rush. But when you're ready, you'll know. And I'll be here for you. Her words give Ethan hope, and Elena feels a quiet pride. Her fight wasn't just for herself. It planted a seed of courage in her brother too. At night, when Elena sits alone in her newly redecorated living room, she reflects on how far she has come. The old Elena would have begged for her parents' approval, desperate to be accepted. Now, she understands something powerful. She doesn't need their approval to live a full and happy life. What she needs is her own peace, her own dignity, her own voice. She looks around at the space she rebuilt with her own hands and feels stronger than ever. This condo isn't just walls and furniture. It's her freedom made solid, a reminder that she has the strength to protect herself and choose her own path. For the first time, Elena isn't afraid of her parents' anger or their words. Their power is gone. What remains is her life, her choices, and her future. And that, she knows, is more than enough. Late at night, Elena sits in her living room surrounded by boxes she chose to keep, not because she needed everything inside them, but because each one carried a piece of her story. Some boxes hold old clothes she refused to let her parents throw away. Others contain books she worked long nights to buy when she was saving for her condo. They are not just objects. They are reminders of her fight, her patience, and her strength. The room is quiet. Outside, the city hums softly, but inside, Elena feels a rare kind of calm. She pulls her journal onto her lap, the same one she has been writing in since her early 20s. She opens to a fresh page and writes slowly, carefully. Freedom is not given. It's taken back, piece by piece. Her handwriting is steady. She underlines the words twice. For years, she thought freedom meant escaping her parents' rules or moving out of their house. Now she knows it is deeper than that. Freedom is choosing herself, again and again, no matter how many times they try to pull her back. Her phone buzzes on the table beside her. She doesn't even need to look to know who it is. With a deep breath, she picks it up. The screen lights up with another long, manipulative message from her mother. You're still our daughter. You can't turn your back on us forever. One day you'll regret this. For a moment, Elena stares at the words. The old her would have cried, argued, or begged for peace. But not anymore. With a steady hand, she presses the block button. The screen goes dark, and with it, the constant noise that has followed her for years. She sets the phone down, closes her eyes, and leans back against the couch. A long, slow breath escapes her chest. The air feels lighter. The silence feels safe. For the first time in years, she feels a kind of freedom that is not shaky or fragile, but solid and real. Around her, the boxes wait to be unpacked. The plants by the window stretch toward the night sky, and the soft blue wall she painted with Ryan seems to glow under the lamplight. This is her space, her life, her future. Elena smiles to herself, a small, quiet smile, but one that comes from deep inside. She doesn't need her parents' approval anymore. She doesn't need to explain or defend who she is. She has taken her life back, piece by piece, and now it belongs only to her. The night stretches on, calm and steady. Elena closes her journal, rests her hand on the cover, and lets her eyes fall shut. For the first time in years, she feels free. Fade out on her quiet but powerful victory. Hey friends, thanks so much for sticking around till the end. Two hearts, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more. See you next time. Sparkles.